So in this video, I'm going to go over identifying and treating stains that you may run across in the laundry. Now there's a 5-step process in which we can take that's really going to improve the success rate of identifying what this stain might be and then how we could remove it. So the first step would be looking at the size and shape of the stain on your linen. Next, you'd examine the color. Then you'll take your test kit and you'll do some testing on this piece of linen to help you identify what it might be. And then after you've done those 3 things, you should have a fairly good idea as far as what you think the stain might be. And then you will treat the stain with a specific pre-spotter depending on what you might think it would be. And then you would propose a resolution as far as how to remove that stain from a particular account. So like I said, the first thing you're going to look at is the size and shape of the stains that you have on your piece of linen. And as you're going through all 5 of these steps, you also want to think in the back of your head, where did this stain come from? Did it come from outside of the laundry machine or inside of the laundry machine? So back to size and shape. If we have a bunch of droplets all over our linen, well, obviously that's telling us something is dripping onto our linen. Now, on the outside of the laundry machine, that could be, beverages, possibly blood, ink, things like that. And it's going to be very localized. It's just going to be on one particular area. It's not going to be widespread. This could also be happening where you get droplets occurring on the inside of the laundry machine, and more than likely that's going to be some type of malfunction with either your dispenser or the laundry machine where it's dripping product onto your piece of linen. If it's something that's really widespread, well, that's more than likely telling us that it's occurring inside of the laundry machine because the water and chemicals is spreading that stain throughout our piece of linen, like this piece of linen that we have right here. It's widespread. It's throughout all of this piece of linen. There's really no rhyme or reason as far as the location. The shapes are really odd. It's not circular or anything like that. So that's telling me this is probably happening inside of the laundry machine. Also, the edges could kind of be an indicator as well. Some stains have very specific look to it. For example, a concrete stain. It's very erratic, jagged type of edges. It's gray, it's a light gray. And what's happening there is anytime wet linen comes into contact with concrete, wherever that contact surface is, it's just going to suck up that alkalinity. So you have a very defined look and color to that type of stain. Now, after you kind of examine the shape and maybe got an idea as far as where it came from and possibly what it could be, you're going to want to start examining the color. And the best thing to do is utilizing our stain treatment guide here. This kind of goes through a lot of different things, but one of the things that it will do is it will break down different types of businesses that you may be working with, and it'll say these are some very common stains or very common colors of stains that you may run across. For example, here we have a hospital yellow. Well, that's more than likely body oil, chlorine, cosmetics, or sizing if you're using sizing. So this is a really good tool to kind of help you indicate what the stain might be based on the color. And then this also has ways to remove that, which chemicals you should be using for that particular stain. There's a very large list of stains that you may run across in the laundry and how to remove them. So after you've done that, you've done 2 steps. So now you should be kind of formulating a good idea as far as what this stain might be, where it's coming from, but we're not yet ready to start treating it. Next we want to do is we want to test these stains or test this piece of linen with our total test kit. So the first one we're going to do is our pH indicator. Now the color that the pH indicator turns is going to kind of help us determine what's going on in this piece of linen. If we're kind of more towards the lower pH range, well, that could be telling us maybe it's some type of souring issue. If we're in the higher, maybe 9, well, there could be residual bleach and things like that. And this is going to be good information later on down the road when we're trying to remove stains. For example, if we have an iron and rust issue, but our pH is up at 8, well, that could be telling us we're not putting enough sour in to get rid of that iron and rust that may be in that linen. So let's put a couple drops here, and I like to put drops off the stains and on the stains because sometimes you could get a difference in your results, and that could be another indicator as far as what the issue might be. So put a couple drops here, and then we got a pretty significant stain here. Now, all of our laundry, our target range is 5.5 to 6.5. That's our goal as far as the pH when the laundry comes out of the laundry machine. So if we want to compare it to our test strip chart here, well, I would say probably in the 4 or 5 range, maybe a little lower. So I'm thinking we're getting a good amount of reduction as far as our pH goes. But let's do some more tests. Next is going to be for residual chlorine. Again, I'm going to test a couple different spots. Now, this one, even if there's a minute amount of chlorine, we are going to get a little bit yellow as far as our results. But the darker the yellow is, the more chlorine is retained into this piece of linen. So, do a couple spots here. Now, with this test, you just put a couple drops down, give it a little bit of time, and see if we get any yellowing. Now, we got a really dark spot here and here. I'm going to save this one for the next test, but we'll go over here. And that's kind of odd because we're getting a little bit of waterproofing there as well. So not much yellowing. It's very light, so I don't think we have a residual chlorine problem. We're getting a decent amount, but nothing too crazy. Next test we're going to do is the residual iron. So with this one, there's 2 titrants that are used. We put one down, put the other one on top of it, and the darker the color we get, the more iron may be present. Again, I'm going to try to find a spot that doesn't have much as far as residual in it. A couple drops here. Actually might have a softener issue going on as well with this piece of linen, because we are getting a good amount of or not a good amount of absorption. You can see how that's beaded up, and especially on the stain. That bead should be absorbed by now, that bead of water. Alright, we are getting a really good amount of red, oh wow, on these spots. Alright, so with these results here, I'm leaning towards an iron issue. All these stains here, an iron issue. And that's kind of what my initial assumption was, just because it's widespread. There isn't a specific location that it's on, very erratic in the shape. So I'm thinking this is happening inside of the laundry machine. And if we go back to our stain treatment guide, if we look at, yellow, kind of brown stains, one of the things that it may be is iron issues that you're having. So now that we're done testing, we kind of have a good hypothesis as far as what this might be. Now we want to treat it and see if our pre-spotters remove it. If our pre-spotters remove it, it's almost a sure lock that we have identified this stain properly. So the pre-spotter that I'm going to use is our, this one is the Clax Magic Rust Remover. Doesn't have to be a specific brand, but you want something that's iron and rust remover. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply it to the stained area, follow the directions, which is a 5 to 10 minute wait time, and then we're going to rinse it out and see what happens. Now I'm just going to treat one little area. We said we're going to give it 5 to 10 minutes. Usually with iron and rust issues, when you put an acid on it, similar to this, it's going to remove it very quickly. A lot of times I'll make a solution in a 5-gallon bucket, dip our piece of linen into it and kind of see what happens. So we're going to put this on here, put in a couple spots, and then we'll check back in a little bit and see how it's done. So I waited about 5 minutes, then I went and rinsed this piece of this pillowcase out, this piece of linen, and the majority of this staining that we kind of see here was removed. There was a little bit of spots left, and that's kind of typical because that iron and rust that we removed also entraps soil. So I just took a little bit of suds, gave it a rub, and then it all came out. But you could see we have a noticeably different whiteness. Even this whole area is much whiter than the rest of the piece of this linen here. That's very badly stained. So kind of based on the testing that we've done so far, I believe we do have an iron issue that's causing this type of staining. We did have a good pH as far as our pH range, but we may not be using the right product. If we're using a neutralizer, it's not going to do anything as far as removing iron and rust, but it will lower our pH. So for this particular piece of linen, I would recommend making sure that they are using a iron and rust removing sour. They also might want to look at their chlorine usage, just because iron and chlorine will react with one another and kind of cause this discoloration in the linen. So might want to go with an oxygenated bleach if there is a lot of iron and rust in the linen. But after you've determined what the stain is, then you can make an action plan. Now the action plan could involve sorting linen differently, using one of our pre-treatments here, making adjustments in the laundry cycle, making adjustments in the amount of product that you're using or the type of product that you're using. Two other quick little notes is any piece of linen that you test with our test kit, do not expect to get these out of that piece of linen. So this linen will probably be made into rags eventually. You might be able to get it out, but don't expect it to happen. And also make sure you stress that any stained linen that goes into the dryer is going to set that stain. And I think that's why we may have had a little bit of a spot here and there after we treated it with the rust treatment. Just that stain was set, and any soils that got locked in with that iron got set into this piece of linen as well. So hopefully that's a good overview as far as how you could identify and remove stains. Make sure that you utilize your resources, including your test kit, and then also the stain treatment guide.